Hey everyone, welcome. I'm Tom Hazzard, host of Feed Your Brand, co-founder of Podetize. And today we have what is normally our client-only weekly coaching call. And of course, those of you that are our customers and attend these sessions every week, you know that at this time, every Wednesday, Tracy and I usually, although it's just me today because I have a special guest, we bring you what we think are some, as a good topic that will be of interest to you. And we record an episode of our podcast for the first 20 or 25 minutes and then have Q&A. Today, we're doing something a little different. And I'm happy to present to you Charles Byrd, who is not only a Podetize customer, but an expert in joint ventures. And I'm not going to do too much explaining that or defining it. I'm going to let Charles do that because he's the expert. But today we opened up our coaching call, not just to clients, but we offered it to everyone on our email list who is even a prospect. Because I think personally, from my business experience, this subject I think would be of interest to a great many people. I know as a business owner, some of the earliest opportunities that we had to grow our customer base and to monetize were through joint ventures with other companies. I think these things take place in many forms, and maybe not everybody does it the same way. But I am curious as a business owner to learn what Charles has to share with us today. And I'm really excited to have him. And so I think without spending much more time on that, I'm going to turn this over to Charles to present. And so Charles, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit and then feel free to, as you're ready, go into your presentation. And I'll be here to, if I have a question or a comment during it, and then we'll open it up to Q&A at the end. Does that sound good?
Beautiful. So Tom, thank you so much for having me, and everyone, it's great to see you on. This will be a very good use of your time because we're going to talk about building amazing relationships in a systematic way to not only make your podcasts make a bigger splash, to be able to get bigger guests, but to monetize those podcasts by landing private clients, by lining up, getting in front of other people's audiences, talking about how to kind of leverage the big names you'll be able to attract onto your shows, or you already are. So it's a very satisfying way to go about things, and I'm excited to share it with you. So I'll dive in. If you do have questions on the way, feel free to pop them in the question box. We'll either pick them up in real time, and I'll definitely be doing a full Q&A at the end. So off we go. Let me know if you can see this opening slide. Okay.
We're good.
So we're going to be talking about the 5 shifts to a never-ending flow of clients. And you'll see this a little further down in the presentation, but one of the vehicles that I recommend people use to do this are podcasts. So it's exciting to share this because you're already well positioned to leverage this. So we live in a very busy world with lots of pings and dings and distractions. For a moment, I'd love for us to just take a breath here and kind of reground so you have plenty of oxygen in your brain as we dive into this important topic. So here we go. Maybe I do that selfishly. It calms me down before a presentation.
I like it. I think it's a good idea. I tend to jump right in, but I kind of like it.
We'll do one more. Yeah, that a friend of mine is John Asraf, and one of the things in his book, to always ground when you're, whatever the context, you can reset by doing that. So it's pretty nice. A little bit about me. I am an entrepreneur, husband, father, human, hailing from the Bay Area here in Northern California. Today, we're going to talk about systematically not only following up with leads you already have, but systematically creating new clients, new referrals, closing more deals. And a really key topic for this group is monetizing your podcast. I'd love to hear just from in the chat, um, how many people are successfully monetizing, and conversely, how many of you want to? So put want to or need to or plan to versus already are. I'd love to get a feel for that. So tiny bit of background about me. I worked in the Silicon Valley for 15 years. I was a director at a billion-dollar software company working in that shiny building. And as shiny as it was, I wanted to do something bigger and operate on my own agenda. And I wanted to change, but I was probably a little too comfortable. And what pushed me to actually start my company was my mom. She ran a hospital in Central California and taught OB nursing school students. One day I was working on my laptop at the Starbucks by my house and got a call from her, and she had that serious tone in her voice. So I was thinking maybe one of the kids she adopted from Sierra Leone were having trouble in school, but it wasn't that. She said she'd been in a minor car accident the day before. She thought she was pressing the brake, but wasn't, and hit the car in front of her. And then that day she was reaching for a fork and physically kept missing it by 6 inches. Took her to the hospital and found she had 2 stage 4 brain tumors. And I could barely walk into my house to tell my family that. We went down to be with her going into brain surgery. And basically, I stayed at her place for a year taking care of her. My mom lived 1 year to the day from when I got that call. And for me, nothing could have screamed louder. This is the time to do the things that you want to be doing, the bigger impact you want to make, the traction you want for this show, the people that you serve, the quality of life for you and your family. This is the time to make those moves. I chose a new path. I had this piece of wood made. I will. End of story. This isn't playing around with it. It's all in on it. And so I left corporate. I came into the online space, and I went from wall-to-wall meetings to pure silence, a very isolating, weird feeling. But I knew I loved people, and I knew I loved systems. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, building relationships that surround you with people who have your back, who are sending you referrals, sending you amazing guest connections. And those connections become clients and joint venture partners systematically, week in and week out. It's a system for building amazing relationships. So you're not working in isolation, on lockdown or not. You have a network of people behind you, which is very, very fun. So you can do this just as effectively on the online world as offline. And these strategies we're going to cover today have taken me from literally brand new and green in this space to just insane opportunities left and right, because it's always about connecting and providing value to others. And in doing so, the doors of opportunity swing wide open. You really do start kind of playing the game as an insider. You're invited to summits, you're invited on other podcasts, people are lined up to come on your shows. And it's again done systematically. I mean, it's not by accident. It's because you're purposely putting energy into building great relationships, which lead to getting in front of the massive audiences they've built. So my friend David Gonzalez, he ran Pete Vargas's launches that were doing 4+ million. He says, I've never met anyone who so consistently can set up joint ventures. We'll define that in a minute. And one of my friends, Joe Polish, he notes, I'm an expert at systems and productivity and relationships. So the reason we're covering this, you're going to naturally know how to get closer with the folks you're having on your shows or are part of that, of your world there, that help guide them into working with you privately, that help guide them into your digital programs, or other types of offerings that you have, so that you're taking the time you're putting into your marketing, which Podetize saves you a ton of time on that, which is a very beautiful thing. What you're doing with Tom is leveraging your time. You're doing the show. You're not having to produce everything. This is a similar philosophy related to creating promotions with the people you're connecting with and following up with more people to land clients. It's going from one to one to many, which your shows are already doing, but doing that as well with your products and offerings, that gives you leverage, and that leverage enables you to scale. And again, it's a systematic approach that works regardless of niche, because it's based on relationships. Connection equals opportunity, the opportunity to listen, to learn, to trade ideas, to share intros, just make real human connections. And what I've heard over the years, people are sometimes intimidated to approach others for a few different reasons. Let's just use the analogy of podcasts, since that's pretty poignant. I was doing a bunch of interviews a few years ago, and I didn't even actually have a podcast. I was sending them to my list or doing Facebook Lives, things like that. And I connected with Jordan Harbinger. Since you guys are podcasting, you may know him. His show, I think, has 2 or 3 million downloads a month. And I invited him to be on my show. And here's the thing. It would be easy to think, if I don't have a huge platform, how can you go invite someone with a massive following like that for an interview? And the fact is, the podcast's the perfect platform for that. But people, they feel like they fall into the reciprocation trap. If you think someone's list or following is just way bigger than yours, it might intimidate you from starting to build a relationship with them, when the fact is, they're just people too, with their own goals and things they're working on. And you have all kinds of ways to support them in that can get the ball rolling on a phenomenal relationship. So we're going to be talking about not only how to connect with these folks and the arc of that process, but how to do so providing value to them where they can't wait to help you with things, because you're working on supporting them as well. And this builds really strong relationships. A little further on, we're going to be talking about what I call the invisible pitch, to plant the seed of where you want the conversation to go right up front, that builds momentum from things you're working on. So let's jump into some of the specifics here. By the way, I'd only met that gentleman 10 minutes before he snugly strapped himself behind me like that, which felt a little inappropriate given the duration of our relationship. But when we leaped from the aircraft, my view quickly changed to being very happy. Someone who's done this thousands of times had my back on this journey. I have your back on this journey of leveraging the platform of your podcast to land private clients and line up presenting to other people's audiences. So let's start with shift number 1, the shift to relational marketing. This is the antithesis of sitting in the basement trying to hack the Facebook algorithm that's getting harder to manage every day. It's the antithesis of transactional marketing, where you say, I'll do this specific thing for you, but only if you do this specific thing for me. That transactional feeling, for one, it's very kind of empty, but you can't build longevity with that approach. So this is about building deep, true relationships with people based on things that you have in common, and you find those out by asking questions and listening. So let's talk more specifically about how that's done. And if you didn't know, relationships really are everything. It sounds like a platitude, but people, when they're on their deathbed, all they care about were their relationships, not their things. And the personal satisfaction from family, that's, again, relationships, personal satisfaction with your clients and colleagues. And when you talk to kind of online focused entrepreneurs, along with regular ones as well. The ones scaling have these relationships. The ones doing large promotions and launches, I'll use a few examples from the online world because that's where I spend a lot of time. But like Ryan Levesque's last launch of his Ask program did $8 million. 40% of that was through partners. Only 20% was through Facebook. So how do you start lining these things up? I'll give an example of my friend Tim, who has consciously built a great network. Before the pandemic, he was doing monthly dinners, inviting people to those. And he was like, I've got these great relationships, which many of you probably have too, from all the people you've had on your shows and so forth. But Tim wasn't kind of leveraging them to build the business. So he was jumping on one of my Pure JV group program calls, and he was late. He's like, Charles, sorry I'm late, but I'm late because your system works so good. And I'm like, what do you mean? He said, well, since you taught me how to line up joint venture partnerships, presenting to other people's warm audiences, people that are far more willing to buy than cold traffic. He said, in the last 11 days, I've booked 13 stages and webinars, and I was late because I just booked 14th. So how do you make these connections? How do you become a human lead magnet? Well, ways to connect are online, at events, at mastermind groups, calls like this, different communities where your peers are hanging out. And one thing I want to have you write down is there's this, I guess, common belief that if you're going to try to line up presenting to other people's groups, you have to reach out to people cold who've never heard of you. And like, it feels challenging when it's the opposite is true. We want to work from warm. We want to work from the people who do know who you are. We want to work from your peer group, people that listen to your show, people that you've invited on the show, different peers in the communities you spend time, because not only can these folks make great guests, which become great clients, which many, depending on who they are and their own community or audience, can become great JV partners to present your products or services to their audience. Another example in our Zoom world, just the chat thread within a Zoom call can be a gold mine when you're on calls with your ideal partners and clients. So I'll give a quick example. My friend David runs something called the Internet Marketing Party, and this was an in-person event until COVID, and it went online. This was the first one they did online. This is a bunch of entrepreneurs, marketers, podcasters, and they had 67 people on this call. And I'm going to give you very specific language you can use. So let's say I'm connecting with someone I know on the call. So I might ping David and say, great to see you, man. You want to write this down. It's specific language you can use. Great to see you. I'd love to hear what you're up to that has you excited. Are you up for jumping on a call in the next week or two? If so, feel free to share your booking link, or here is mine. So as simple as that. And let's say it's someone I've never met before. Let's see. I don't know Liz. So I could ping Liz, say, Liz, great to see you on the call. I'd love to learn more about what you're up to and who you serve. Up for jumping on a call in the next week or two? If so, feel free to share your booking link, or here is mine. So simple, right? It's just messaging people in the chat. From this call, I booked 8 follow-up calls. 2 of them became private clients, and 3 of them became joint venture partners because of that simple outreach. So you can do this in an array of communities, Facebook, LinkedIn, Zoom calls, Podetize gatherings, things like that. All right, next up is the shift to wowing your partners. And this means like going above and beyond what most people do to really make an impact. And it's leveraging your own superpowers. I have my strengths. You have your strengths. Tom has his with his deep experience in this podcast world. So imagine having a bus full of your ideal clients pull up in front of your house every week. And the people piling out of that bus are your ideal clients that your JV partner dropped off there instead of dropping them off at someone else's house. In fact, Tom, if I had more time between my last meeting, I would have put your picture in that bus window. And it's quite wild. Like tomorrow, I'm presenting to Lisa Sasovich's audience. Every week, I'm presenting to different audiences, because when you have a framework for connecting, which your podcasts are one of the ultimate platforms for doing, and we'll get into the specifics on how you can do that. Then when you're invited to present to another person's audience, they've spent years and hundreds of thousands of dollars to create their communities. There's a lot of trust built up in those communities. So you really do need to wow your partners for them to not only trust you enough to do that, but to get excited about sharing what you have to offer with their audiences. So it has to do with wowing them before the call, how you're likely being introduced by another partner. So making that introduction super solid, like the way that comes in, how you're characterized. We want to hand people the frame through which to view you through, so that you're put in the best light for the amazing outcomes you bring for your clients right up front. And we want to know how to wow them when we're jumping on a call. To book a joint venture, it involves talking to the person who actually has the audience, to not only get to know them and know their needs and the needs of their audience and why that audience follows them, and then look at your products or services to see how those complement and work together to take those communities further together. So knowing how to frame up the conversation so you can not only win them over, but have them very excited about it. And then wow them after the conversation, how you follow up. I mean, you will be a unicorn when you follow up, because most people don't. So many deals are left in the rearview mirror because people don't take the time to actually follow up. So when you systematically know how to wow before, during, and after the interaction to actually get the promotion booked, you're coming out ahead already. So I want to tell you a little more about this invisible pitch. And we'll also frame it up around the concept of your podcast. And I assume not all of you are interviewing people on your shows, but I would encourage you to consider starting to do that if you're not, because it's the perfect mechanism to build relationships. It's the perfect mechanism to take someone you perceive is further along than you, but still give them a reason to come spend half hour or an hour on your show. It's just, again, like Jordan Harbinger. He never even asked how many people follow me, when it would be released, any of that stuff. And the truth is, barely anyone does, because they're just so used to giving interviews. They're not putting a lot of thought into that. So the invisible pitch is how you frame up a call within the first minute. This is when people are in the mode of, what part of the country are you in? What's the weather like? And they've not dropped into business mode yet. They're just in, hey, how's it going? So you can tee up momentum in your world real stuff happening for you right now. And I'm going to give you 2 examples, and then I'll show you how you can set that up to line up a joint venture conversation or a sales call right off the back of your webinar. Your podcast. So again, I'm going to give 2 examples. The first example's fake. It's an example. And then I'll give like a normal everyday one that I would use today. So let's say Tom and I jump on a call, and we've just been, we're jumping, let's say on a podcast interview. Like typically there's 2 ways those goes down. One, there's an interaction and you're invited to, let's say I invited Tom to be on my show. So we could have synced up on a call first. That definitely can happen. Or I would just know I want Tom, I invite Tom, and we do it all in one shot. So let's say Tom and I come on to pre-interview. And again, this first one is fictional. And Tom goes, "How are you, Charles?" And I go, "Well, I'm great. For one, I'm grateful you're coming on the show. So that's exciting. And 2, I've been consulting people privately, and I'm turning this into a group program. We've got our first pilot. I have 7 people signed up, and we plan to take all those case studies and info and turn this into a program I'm going to start JVing with in July. So I'm pretty excited. How are you, Tom?" So what's happened here? Again, that was a fictional example. What's happened is I'm telling Tom very clearly, I have a plan. I have momentum. I've taken action to create a program. I've got people signed up for it. I plan to take it way further, and I plan to partner with people as a traffic source. So this can frequently pique Tom's interest to go, "Oh, cool. Well, I'd love to hear how that goes. Let's sync up when you get your pilot done." So I'll give an example from today. So if we were jumping on pre-interview and Tom asks how I'm doing, I say, I'm good. I got my morning run in, which felt nice. Then had a couple sales calls, did an interview with Mike Koenigs for the Strategic Coach podcast, which I'm really excited about. And I have a webinar with Lisa Sasevich. She's an industry legend, and I'm really excited to be working with her. And actually, the call before this, I booked a JV to a list of 86,000 people. How are you? Now,
Wow.
which that literally all just did happen today. And now, why is that relevant? So right out of the gate, I have shown Tom that I have momentum. I systematically book joint ventures. Well, actually, there was one other thing. I was invited to do an Entrepreneur Magazine interview too. Again, you're taking the wins in your world. They can be small, they can be big, but the point is you take that momentum and you place it on the next thing you're doing. It just spins up positive momentum. And in this case, saying things like that, which are all facts, do you think Tom feels he needs to vet everything that I create after he knows who I'm working with? The odds go way down. And so the point is, you take the momentum you have. Again, I gave 2 examples. The first one's just as relevant. It's showing you've got momentum and a path and a plan. Now, how does this apply to podcasts? Well, for one, you use the invisible pitch right out of the gate. By the way, I had to reverse engineer what I was doing. I didn't even know I was doing that, but I had to figure out what I was doing so I could teach other people how to do that. So I didn't consciously wake up and create that one day.
The invisible pitch is brilliant. I love the name, and it makes so much sense. I mean, because you're just getting to know who you're talking to, which puts them, at ease, getting to know you. But and it's interesting the way you did it. It's not like you were being really boastful. It didn't feel that way to me anyway.
Right. Yeah, and it never should. You'd have the opposite effect if it felt boastful.
Yeah.
But you're just taking your reality. Again, it could be as simple as the morning run. This is someone who gets out and does stuff. Like you're handing people the frame through which to view you through. Um, I, I'll tell one more brief example about that. Then I'll have to speed up a little bit. But one of my clients, we covered that in my Pure JV program, and we jumped on the call. A gentleman named Jesse, he's done hundreds and hundreds of interviews since the pandemic. Anyway, I'm like, Jesse, how are you? And he's like, well, I'm really good. I had breakfast this morning with a client who a few years ago, I helped him start his business in his garage. And last week he just exited his company for $2 billion. And I got chills down the back of my spine. I'm like, oh my God, like if he didn't tell me that, I would not know. And believe me, I view him differently because that's crazy, right? That's like really powerful. So in the context of a podcast, setting up, say, like, as you guys know, you're saying, okay, we're going to be on Zoom. We'll start recording here. Here's the flow of it. But here's all you do. Say, cool, Tom, after the interview, do you mind hanging out for 5 or 10 minutes? I want to sync up with you on a couple things afterward. Does that work
Oh
for
yeah,
you?
that'd be great. Yeah.
So as simple as that, that means when the interview's over, he's not just going to close Zoom and bail. Now he knows to hang out. And after you've had a phenomenal interview and you're interacting, you're building up a bunch of rapport. You are in an insanely prime position to land a client or book a joint venture. And our call flow that we walk through in the Pure JV program guides exactly how to do that. So think of all the rapport built up after a 30 or 45-minute interview. You're connected. You have the back and forth syncopation of speech. I could go, clearly I could go on. I get excited about this stuff. So other ways to communicate, like following up with Tom. I forget if I actually did with you, but I frequently use video to follow up. I'll use tools like Vidyard to, let's say Tom and I just finished having the call where we booked a presentation. I would shoot a video on camera and be like, hey, Tom, it was great syncing up with you. Excited to work with you. Look for your JV kit assets, 2 weeks before we're working together. It's just going above and beyond in ways other people don't. It's that before, during, and after. And these are the tools and the arc of how to do this. So everything is systematic and thoroughly genuine and awesome. This is how you make amazing relationships. So from your podcast, I assume most of you, I would like to think, actually, I should just ask, how many of you have products or services that one of the goals of creating the podcast was to get more clients? I'm popping over to the chat, which oddly, it's the first time I went to.
Oh, yeah. We've had actually quite a few people earlier when you asked the question of, if people were wanting to plan to or whatever, that we had a lot of positive response to those. And now here you're getting some yeses. And I think that's true. A lot of podcasters, at least who work with us, are in business in some way or building a business. And they have programs, courses, something that is related to their business and also related to the subject they're podcasting about. So I believe this should be very much in alignment with what you're talking about.
Perfect. So as long as you have a product or service, it could be a consulting offer, it could be a group program, it could be a digital program. But I would argue one of the biggest reasons on earth to have a podcast is to guide people to buy your products or programs. And as maybe you have a high ticket one-on-one coaching offer. I've landed so many clients by being on their shows or them being interviewed because, yeah, in fact, I was on the Hustle and Flowchart podcast, and I have a meeting next week with Joe because they want to talk about working further. So it truly is a remarkable platform for landing deals. And that's what this system, it takes you from what you've already built and shows you how to actually turn that into something that's landing you clients and getting in front of other audiences. Let's talk about the shift to warm leads. And some of these I'll go a little faster than normal out of, I got a little too excited on the part a second ago, but the shift to warm leads means, I want to put this in context. When people pay for Facebook ads or pay for Google ads, I don't pay for ads because when you can get in front of someone else's large audience that already knows, likes, and trusts them, these people are far more likely to click on your links. They're far more likely to register for your trainings. They're far more likely to buy, and they're far more likely to spend more when they do, because you're taking a transference of authority from who they're following. So I'll point out these are free leads as well. So when I first came into the space, I created a productivity course. I needed to make this choice. Am I doing content marketing? Am I paying for ads? Or do I want to do joint ventures? To define joint venture, it's a temporary or ongoing promotion that consists of one party supplying the audience and the other party supplying the product for a percentage of the revenue. And an example of that would be the author Brian Tracy. People follow Brian for sales training, for high performance, those kind of topics, for productivity. Now, Brian Tracy doesn't have a training on what I do, but it's perfectly in the lanes of why people follow him. So I've presented to his audience 6 times. His list's 500,000 people. Imagine getting your product or service in front of crazy amounts of people. Yeah, eat that frog. First thing in the morning, Samantha, right? Oh, perfect. I'm thrilled to hear that. Thank you, Jenny. So how do you find these partners and what are they based on? It's based on building real relationships, providing value, building trust. I call it the system that makes success inevitable. And it's also the system that turns every joint venture into 2 or 3 more. So again, we're all about leverage here. It's self-replicating. You're able to use this over and over. And I'll just give you an example. Part of this process, in a week or so, Tom and I are going to sync up, and I've got some great intros for him, and I quite imagine he may have some for me. So this is where you can turn every joint venture into 2 or 3 more. You're getting waves of intros to your next partners. So I'm a fan of joint venture promotions, embedded partnerships. So let's talk about that for just a second. So Tom's Podetize offer would go really good with authors. Authors and experts tend to have books, and they frequently also want podcasts, so that they're good friends with each other. They complement each other. So imagine a presentation on Podetize embedded into a publisher's offer. These kind of built-in relationships where Tom's getting leads for years from one deal made. And then of course, referrals. Referrals are huge. Imagine just at the end of an interview and you're chatting with the person and it's clear what you do and it's clear what they do. And you both come up with some ideal client referrals. I did that with Mike Koenig's this week to one of my other clients, and he very well likely is going to close a $75,000 deal just from connecting those two. So this system enables me and my students and clients to book webinars systematically. I book 2 to 6 joint venture webinars per week. My clients do it too. One of my clients, let me jump to this slide here. Yeah, Jackson. Jackson's out of Australia. He helps businesses focus on their core numbers and retain more personal wealth. He'd never done a joint venture before, but he's got a good offer, and he's, sharp guy. I showed him how to line up joint ventures in the last, let's see, it's probably up to around 40 days that I've worked with him. He's landed 46 partners. Oh, Jackson, isn't he awesome? Right now he's touring Australia with his wife and his dog in a big branded camper van, going wherever the hell he wants. And he's amazing. I like him. In any case, it's that who you know and what you know, where the opportunity sweet spot is. So, how to build relationships. There's Jesse right there. Podcasts, vlogs, summits, anywhere where the context of what you're doing, like a podcast, gives you an excuse to have people on, like a reason. And that's where you can make the magic happen, building that rapport. Another quick tip you can write down is when someone comes to mind, just ping them. Different guests you've had on your shows. Don't let those float off into Never Never Land. When people come to mind, just shoot them a text, send them a quick email. Hey, Tom, I'd love to hear how things are going. What are you working on that has you excited? Or I just met this great JV partner for you. Would you like an intro? Like, when people come to mind, it's because there's something associated with them. And this gives you a wonderful opportunity to provide them value while also digging the well before you're thirsty. This is from the Harvey Mackay book, and there's Jordan. Jordan,
That's a great quote, digging the well before you're thirsty. I mean, it's, I think, being prepared and not just thinking about, wow, I wish I had more joint venture relationships or had more access to potential customers when you're desperate for the business, but doing it before you get desperate, right?
Yeah, we never want to be desperate. And you know this too. When you are desperate, it's the least likely you'll ever make a sale. So we want to build on that confidence. Here's another quote he pulls out of here. Do this as a matter of habit, and you'll have so much opportunity coming into your life, you won't know what to do with yourself. And it's true. This will sound dumb, but it's following these processes. I feel like I'm in Scrooge McDuck's money pit, but I only have so many hands and pockets. So then you get selective about what opportunities you're actually following up with, because you have such a high volume of them to do so. Another one of my clients, Matthew McGregor, this guy's, I think he's 22 now. He started early, and he'd been studying how joint ventures work. He joined my program. He's very kind of systems minded. During the 8-week Pure JV program, he booked a JV that brought in $34,000. That, see, when you're doing joint ventures and getting in front of other audiences like that, it raises your visibility. This got him on the radar of Mike Filsame, who has built a ton of the platforms that we use in the internet marketing space. Mike Filsame invested in his company. Matthew's email list is now 230,000 people. He did a promo, internal promo to his own list last month that brought in 480 grand because he leaned into joint ventures and applied them and just took action. Now, not everyone runs out and does that, but it just shows you what's systematically possible by this. It's pretty amazing. Okay, next up, and I'll be very, how you saw Matthew. Yeah, he's the sharp guy. In fact, I'm presenting to his audience in June, I believe. which I can't wait. All right, the next step is the shift to a system. As you can tell, this stuff isn't haphazard. There's a framework for it. Scaling a business requires systems. There's not really room for winging it, because running a business is hard enough. We're trying to keep track of so many details in the business. Even the podcast process can be complicated. That's why it's wonderful Tom has the service he does, because there's a lot of moving parts, and keeping track of everything is let's just say a challenge, because we're hit with a barrage of information that comes at us from all directions via email, the web, paper documents, receipts, forms, on the cell, on the phone, at work, and at home. And it is enough to drive you crazy. So I've created a system for managing all of this information to lower your stress and let you handle a lot more. So when you channel that toward being really organized with running your show, bringing guests on, the whole communication structure there, and then take that a step further, doing so for joint ventures, you're just better at managing information. I call it information domination. And that translates, again, to all parts of your business. But when you focus it on things that bring you revenue, relationship building, growing your show, it's a beautiful thing. I want to share with you the next shift too. And I'm going to pull something up. So my business partner is a gentleman named Bill Barron, and Bill has done 33 million in joint ventures. He's built and sold a multi-7-figure coaching company. And he came over to my house last Friday, and we shot a video specifically for you here. And it's about the shift to irresistible offers. And I'm going to jump right back on afterward, but he says it a lot better than I do. And I want to tell you, he walked me through the process. He's going to tell you in this video. And conversion of the program went up by 4 times. It's getting your offer right, the messaging right, all the aspects. So I'm going to share this right now, and let me make sure this lets me share with audio. Yay.
Yeah, you just have to check the box. Yeah.
Cool. So I'm going to be right back on after this, but take notes. This stuff is pure gold, and I will hit play.
Thank you, Charles. I am honored to be here with you speaking about the 5th and I believe the most important shift, which is the shift to irresistible offers. This one alone has the potential to completely transform how many people you can help, and then single-handedly double or triple or perhaps even 10x the money your business generates. When you have an irresistible offer, the people you are most here to help, they cannot resist but say yes to what you have to offer. And they do it not because they feel pushed or manipulated, but because they genuinely want what you've got. Imagine a yes after yes after yes. People coming into your program as services, imagining doubling or tripling prices, and at the same time, people are miraculously able to afford what you're selling. Imagine feeling so confident that you know exactly what people want. Yes, this is a game changer for your business. Not having an irresistible offer may indeed be the biggest costly mistake most entrepreneurs are making. The difference between a lukewarm offer and a hot offer is often 3 to 10 times the amount of business. All right, so now let's say you've got a lukewarm offer. Even though most of the people that I come in contact with, when I look at their offers, I actually think they're icy cold. But let's say you've got a lukewarm offer. 10 people come across your offer in 1 month. 2 of them say yes. And let's say you're currently charging $2,000 for whatever it is that you do. So now you have generated $4,000 from 10 possible people. Now, let's say your offer is smoking hot. And the same 10 people come across your offer in 1 month. But now, because you know your offer is hot, you're confidently charging $5,000 for it. And because your offer is irresistible, now instead of 2, 6 out of 10 people are saying yes. So guess what? You've now generated $24,000 from 10 people and not $4,000 from 10 people. So that's a 6x improvement. That's a $20,000 difference per month in your business. So not having your offer made irresistible is costing you a lot. For some, this may be costing you tens of thousands of dollars a year. And for some of you, it may be costing you hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. And the good news, you do not have to change what you do or how you do it once your clients come into your world. All you have to do is change how you position and construct your offer to make it irresistible. This is part strategy, part design, with a little dab of magic dust. And I go very deeply into this in Pure JV and actually help people personally with their offers. But here today, I want to share with you my 7 pillars of an irresistible offer. Pillar number 1, the foundation. Because think about this. What you're selling is not exactly tangible. An iPhone. It's something that you can see. It's something that you can touch. It is tangible, but what you're selling is not. So you have to make it as tangible as possible. So one of the first things that you want to do is you want to make your offer name hot. And it's got to be results oriented because that brings tangibility to the equation. So the what has to be super tangible. So what do I mean by the what? So as an example, Charles's program called Pure JV, the what is, it's an 8-week online implementation program. And it is designed to help you book and execute JV deals that multiply the impact on the revenue of your business. Right? So now it becomes a lot more tangible and it's easy for people to say yes. Right? There's a whole lot more things in the foundation, but I just wanted to give you the most important pieces. So the second pillar is positioning. Imagine being able to, in 1 or 2 sentences, describe the opportunity, not describe what you do, but describe the opportunity in what you do. For your ideal clients, that not only makes what you do attractive, but also let them know why you are the one for this opportunity in the sea of others. This is super important. The better the positioning, the easier it is for people to say yes. All right, pillar number 3, the product, right? Whether it's a service or a product, I'm calling it the product. And most people describe what their product is, or they describe what your service does. And that's a pretty huge mistake that pretty much almost everyone makes to varying degrees. So here you want to design the product description, not as a process you take people through, but as a result-oriented journey your clients will go through once they enter your world. So as an example, in Charles's Pure JV, the first step in the journey is make your offer irresistible so that many more people say yes to what you do, right? So think about this. If people liked the positioning of Pure JV, and now the first step of Pure JV of their journey is also something desirable, right? Like, don't you want your office to be irresistible so that many more people say yes to you? Yes, you do, right? And so that's why actually having the product designed with a positioning and every step being desirable is that important, right? So, and then if every step of the journey is desirable, plus the end result is desirable, a lot more people say yes. All right, pillar number 4, bonuses. Every offer needs to have bonuses that are super desirable and valuable. But here's the most important thing, is that your ideal clients will have objections. It's those reasons that they have in their mind of, yeah, maybe this isn't right for me, or maybe this isn't the right time, or any excuse that they may have in their own mind of why they will not say yes to your offer. But imagine this. Imagine that every bonus that you've got, they're designed to transform the top 2 or 3 objections your potential clients may have with working with you. Right? So by using the bonuses, these are extra things that you built into your program that overcome those objections. This creates a huge opportunity. Not only will it transform the objections, but it creates a tremendous amount of desirability. Pillar number 5 is pricing. This one is key.
It's 2 o'clock.
And it is the most difficult aspect to offer creation because pricing isn't just about value. It is really strategic based on a whole lot of criteria that I want to give you some parameters for. So the first one is your market. What is the price elasticity in your market? Where are you on your business journey? If you're at the very beginning, you're going to have very different prices than when you're at the end, right? Then you want to have your pricing match the marketing and the sales strategy that you're employing to fill your offer. The other thing you want to be looking at it, is this the only product that you have? Or do you have ascending offers or not? You want to be thinking about, okay, what is my full pay pricing and what are my payment plan options? All of these are inputs that will allow you to determine the price. Because if you price your offers too low, you may get a lot of yeses that don't amount to much income. And if you price it too high, you may leave lots of business on the table and it doesn't work. So as far as pricing, I will leave you with this. Most people hear this advice, just charge more, charge more, charge more. Well, yes, you do want to charge more, but only if your offer is irresistible and only if you have the right market and the right positioning and only if it makes sense for the ascension offers in your business. All right, so let's get to number 6. Why act now incentives? So think about this. There might be a decent number of people that want what you've got. But in their mind, they're like, well, I've got a wedding to go to. I have all of these things on my plate. Oh, school is starting soon for my kids. I'll just do it later. Life gets in the way of their desire, right? But now if you've created a whole bunch of incentives, reason for people to say yes now that will not be available later, it creates a completely different decision and people wind up saying yes now rather than I got to think about it or call me back in a month or any of those kind of things. And I've seen, this is such a big one, I've seen a client of mine add $1 million to their business by just adding these Why Act Now incentives. And by the way, this can be done with pricing. This can be done with super hot extra bonuses. This can be done with completely disappearing offers. This is another game changer. All right, the last pillar that I want to talk to you about is the guarantee. So I'm going to be honest with you. Buying something from you is risky. Yes, case studies, testimonials can make it less risky for somebody, but still, handing over their credit card to you is a risky business because they don't know you, right? So think about this. The guarantee is the vehicle with which you're mitigating your client's risks so they actually feel safe in investing in your services. And what that does is that, okay, there's this guarantee, so my perception of the risk of losing a lot of money goes away. So those are the 7 pillars. And I know I went through this super fast. But here's the thing I want you to know, that when your offer gets all 7 of these right, your offer becomes irresistible. And this is going to make or break your next business growth spurt. So I want to thank you for listening to me, and I also want to thank Charles for allowing me the opportunity to actually teach this for you. All right, Charles, take it away.
Yeah. What do you think of that, Tom? Isn't that
Yeah,
powerful stuff?
it is. I don't think that people often think about their offer in all of those terms, right? So I think it's helpful to understand from somebody that has experience with it.
Yeah, I agree. So that was the shift to irresistible offers. And I'll repeat, Bill walked me through that, and conversion went up by 4 times. So um, I'm certainly a convert to it. Anyway, so in this session, we've covered the shift to relational marketing on building quality relationships. We talked about wowing partners and so forth. We talked about the shift to warm leads, so you're not paying for traffic. And we talked about why relationships are so important, along with designing your offer to be irresistible. And I think of it like, if we have a way to choose more good days than bad days because we have a system behind us, if we know we can have dependable revenue because we know exactly how to invite people, the right kind of people on your shows to tee up, either landing them directly as clients or as joint venture partners, you sleep better. You're designing more good days into your life than not. A quote from Brian Tracy: copy what successful people do, you'll get the results successful people get. When I came into the space and started learning joint ventures, I feel like I ascended that mountain by hand. Since I am systems minded, I've created the following elevator for those of you who want to get your offer hot and then learn how to systematically bring that to people and make a lot deeper change and impact. I recommend just jumping on the elevator and pressing the button. So this gets more people looking up to you. Your show following is getting bigger. You're landing bigger clients. You're getting in front of other audiences. Kat, the course builder, a quick example. She has a done for you course building offer, a strong offer before she ever met me. But she was stuck. She was paying for Facebook ads. She's out of Georgia. She's got kids. She's trying to grow the business, but just kept hitting this ceiling. So she talked to a coach of hers. Coach, she was a client of mine, referred her to me. She joined my group program, and she landed 12 partners in 2.5 days that brought in $127,000 of revenue during the 8-week program. She's since done that many times over, but it's just amazing, snapping a proven recipe into an existing business that has these pieces in place. It's a paint by numbers system. And I'd like to simply invite you to have a chat with me if you want to learn about how you can. Well, for one, I want to learn more about you, where you're at with your products or services, your pricing, your core offers, things like that. And then just talk about how you can leverage the vehicle of your podcast to go a lot further, to get in front of a lot more people systematically using a turnkey, like vetted system. I've helped a wide array of people, from people new with their offers to major titans in the industry using this. So I want to help you bridge the gap from where you are to where you know you want to be, to transform from overload to calm, to simplify, to take action, to know exactly how to get in front of other people's audiences that are far more likely to convert and to pay what your time is worth. I'm going to pop a link up to book a call with me here. And I'll share that with you right about now. There's Bill and I hanging out in Napa. The link is podetize-clarity.purejv.com. I'll type it in the chat here as well, http:/. So let's open this up for questions, but just to let you know, I've opened my calendar for the rest of the week and probably on Monday or Tuesday, but we have a group where we walk through this. It's an 8-week group. We have amazing high production training videos that actually Tom and team are helping me with a few things on those.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Really, really great videos that walk through it. And then Thursdays we have live sessions, and we show you exactly how to connect, how to dial your offer, how to line up a JV right out of the gate, and then how to execute on that, like how to fulfill on it. So you're getting paid, your partners are getting paid, and more. So I'm going to pop this in, clarity.purejv.com. Cool. So Tom, you live and breathe podcasts. Your whole community is about that. Where do you see a lot of podcasters falling short on the monetization of this amazing platform?
Well, it's a good question. I think, it's certainly the people that already have programs, products, services, courses, things like that tend to do better because they have something to sell. It's harder if they haven't created that yet. But at the same time, I think that most podcasters lack awareness of, like you showed in that slide, how to bridge the gap, how to get from where they are now and what they have to, building that relationship and eventually making that offer. So, just some of the tactics, I think, about how to go about it, I think is a gap area. I'd like to, I'd like to hear, from some of the others who are on, what you think some of your gaps are. But certainly, as a podcaster, you have a platform. And the other thing that was feeling and thinking as you're talking, Charles, is that podcasters are inherently relationship, I would think, based or in alignment with relationships, because they like to talk, they like to meet other people, they like to have these conversations with people that are the guests. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing it. So they're I think a natural fit to do this, don't you think?
Yeah, I have a friend who does podcasts, and he said he would do them even if they were never published, because the podcast almost isn't the point. The point is the relationship.
Right.
And it's just a fact. When you have a strong offer, an irresistible offer, here's another thing I probably skipped over just due to time. When you know what the outcomes are that are going to be a win for you, you can guide things toward them. Like I'll just use myself as an example. I do VIP day client offers. I have the group program. I'm always speaking and doing joint ventures. So the outcome of any call, any one of those is going to be a win. I want to give you guys a quick example of a JV call that was going nowhere and how you truly can turn every call into a win, or I'll say at least most of them. Reality. So I was on a JV call with someone who teaches foreign languages. That's not relevant to my audience. So it wouldn't be a good joint venture fit. So I could have said, well, lovely to meet you. This is a guy in the UK. Lovely to meet you. Good luck. Cheerio. But instead I said, who would be an ideal joint venture partner for you? And basically he told me, and then he asked the same of me, and he connected me with a guy named Dr. Mativier. I booked 2 JVs with him. Dr. Mativier connected me with Jonathan Levy. I've done at least 6 joint ventures with him. Jonathan Levy connected me to Joe Polish, who I helped with his systems and connections for 5 months. And before he just went on sabbatical, he booked an hour and a half with me to make sure he was well positioned for it. And I want to point out that was all from a JV call that was going nowhere. So when you know specifically how to guide those calls, what the outcomes you're seeking are, your chances of success go through the roof, because now you have a framework to do that. Okay, here's a post Samantha's done too of Jonathan's courses. He's great. He's a friend of mine he lives in Israel with his wife, and they just had a baby. Okay, so Christine says, I'm a bit overwhelmed with all of these steps. It makes me anxious that I'm really far behind the scene, and I'm just launching a program and only in my have my podcast for 2 months. Oh, we'll go back to the deep breath slide for you, Christine. All of us started somewhere, and the fact is, you're off and going. The people I worry about the most are the ones that never take action. You've already defeated that part. You already are creating the framework for doing all of this. So just launching your program. So it sounds to me like your program is in existence, right? Are you out of, like you might be in pilot, it might be out there. This is unequivocally the fastest vehicle to start selling that program. And the podcast is the perfect tee up for that. Okay, let's take a peek at this next question or comment from Janet. We're changing the language from leads to relationships. Awesome, good. So yeah, we did cover quite a bit here. I'll just point out in the group program, we walk through every piece of it, and it's an implementation program. So the mission of it is to line up your first JV, or many people are already doing them, but they come in to systematize the process. And it's just exciting to share it with you guys, because you have the podcast in place that's the beautiful glue to get those relationships up and going. Okay, level 1 is developed, launching in mid-July, starting to sell it now, and doing weekly live events. Perfect. Yeah, Christine, don't feel behind. You're ahead of all the people who haven't done all those things you just said, and take the momentum of what you're doing and take the guidance and input from today to see where you're going. And, when the time's right, put this in place in your business, because free traffic's phenomenal. Free traffic's a magical thing. It's like you're only paying any money out on sales that come in. So you're paying with money you wouldn't have even had. So it's hyper low risk, and it grows your following the whole time too. Like the webinar with Lisa Sasovich tomorrow, everyone who registers for that, they grow your list. Like when people register for your trainings, they're growing your audience. You can build a relationship with them and provide value. Cool. So I want to open this up for any more questions, and then briefly mention if you want to chat with me or a member of my team about where you're at and our upcoming Pure JV group program that I run with Bill. As you can tell, Bill is a very wise person. He's the only other groups he coaches in, they're all doing 1 million plus. So he sees what's working. There's about 80 businesses in that other program. And so he sees what's working within them. He built his business on joint ventures. Again, 33 million in joint ventures. You ask any of these folks, the go-to method is joint ventures first. They do other things too. It's not like it's the only thing they do, but I've relied on joint ventures and referrals from the beginning, and I don't pay for traffic. So anyway, pop over to podetize-clarity.purejv.com.
And I also posted that link in the on our Facebook group where this is playing and will live there for all of our customers. So they have that. I know it's obviously on the screen, but easier to click the link, I think.
Definitely. It's a little long on, but cool. So if you do have any more questions, feel free to pop them in. Again, we actually have a new group starting next week. So for any of you with existing products or services, or you're imminently launching one and you're looking for a systematic way to get in front of other people's audiences to promote that, you definitely want to consider scheduling a call. So that pricing is the program is $6K, and it's engineered to ROI it while you're in the program. Most people do, and it's also guaranteed. Remember those tips from the irresistible offer? It has a year-long full money back guarantee as well, because following the process works ridiculously well. So the next cohort's starting on the 17th, and then there'll be one 8 weeks after that, so in July. So cool. Well, Tom, any kind of wrap-up thoughts you have?
No, I think, I really appreciate your coming on and sharing this information with all of us. I think, I wish I had an 86,000 person list that we could have shared it with. What I was really pleased to see is that the majority of people that have been, joined this live today stayed through the whole presentation. So I think it was very engaging, interesting, relevant to all of us podcasters. And I even think there's some aspiring podcasters who are on here who are not yet. So I really appreciate it. And we got very positive comments. It was maybe one of the more successful, we call sort of coaching crashers on our coaching call that we've had in quite some time. So I don't really have any questions. That all makes perfect sense to me. So I guess I'm going to say, everybody, last call for questions in the chat or the Q&A. If anybody really wants to, I could allow you to talk. If you want to do it verbally, just raise your hand. And then if not, thank you for providing the time that you did, Charles. It's a lot of time, about, hour and a half or so.
Oh, my pleasure. It's actually, I think, the first time I presented to a group that has a podcast, because, or is seriously considering it, because it's been part of my recommended path to build relationships out of the gate, and your people are sitting on it. So it's like perfect tee up. So again, just to hyper summarize, your podcast is the gateway to high ticket private clients and booking joint venture partners, because you choose who to invite on your show, right? So you can invite ideal clients and ideal joint venture partners. And when you have a framework for guiding those calls to get the JVs booked, to land those deals, you have an irresistible offer. It is a very power-packed combination. So pop over to podetize-clarity.purejv.com. I put a link in there, and there's a very brief intake form, and we'll just have a chat. And I'm just as candid with people who it's not a fit for as I am for people it's amazing for. So I'll be happy to just share my true feedback on it, the pros for you, and so forth, and we'll go from there. So Tom, it's been a pleasure, and I'd like to thank you for inviting me to share this. I certainly think it's relevant to people looking to monetize their podcasts.
Definitely. And every podcaster is looking to monetize their, well, I wouldn't say every, the majority of podcasters are looking to monetize their podcast and needing support if they can get it with how to do it. So thank you. Very relevant. Really appreciate it. Those of you that are still on, just know that the recording here will live in the Brandcasters Facebook group. Those of you that are Podetize customers already have access to that. Those of you that are not yet Podetize customers, obviously, if you're, getting to that point where you're ready to launch a podcast, we'd love to speak with you. Reach out to me, tom@podetize.com, or you can book a call on the homepage of our podetize.com website. But then for those of you that are not Podetize customers, we will be sending out an email to all of you with the replay recording of this. And so, if you want to review any of it, if you haven't gone to Charles's link to, book a call to speak with him, all that information will be there in that email and the replay where you can see it as well. Okay. So I think hopefully we've covered all bases. This is honestly that while Charles, yes, we're forming some joint venture relationships now, and that's very exciting. I genuinely, this one was really easy for me to say yes to, because it's just so in alignment with what we do. It's very relevant. And I genuinely feel that everybody attending today can benefit from joint ventures and learning more about it from you. So that's why I wanted to bring you to everyone today. So,
well, it's my pleasure to be here. And thanks for all of you who've invested this time in yourselves to, learn some new things, some specific strategies, and we'd love to help you take that a lot further.
Awesome. All right. Well, it looks like lots of positive comments and thanks. I don't see any more questions. So, if I see one here momentarily, we'll do it. But otherwise, I think we'll hang out. So Charles, you and I, we'll connect on the things we need to connect about following up this shortly. Yep, we're just getting lots of thank yous. So okay. Well, we'll wrap it up. Thanks everybody. Next week for Podetize clients, same link, same place next week. Our normal client coaching call. We have a schedule. Tracy and I have been talking about what's coming up. You'll also see posts about it in the Facebook group. We'll look forward to seeing you next week. Charles, thank you again. I look forward to seeing you shortly.
Awesome. Thanks. Bye.
Bye, everybody.